Welcome to Red Player One Reviews. I'm your host, Curtis France. Today, I'm going to be taking a look at a game called Shakespeare. In this game, up to 4 players have 6 days to put on the best play possible. They do this by improving their stagecraft, costuming, and actors. So let's have a look at what the game has to offer. This is the game board for Shakespeare. You've got a scoring track, the round marker, the turn order track, and the initiative track. In addition to that, there will always be available costume elements and set pieces, and then there are 3 act tracks that you'll all be working towards during the game. This is the setup for a 3-player game. There are 9 costume elements and 9 set pieces available. A key element of strategy in this game is that the costume and set pieces change each round and there's a limited supply of each color. As you can see, all players start at the beginning of the 3 act tracks. Next to the board, there will be characters available for the players to draft each round. Once a card is taken, it immediately becomes a unique action that only that player can take. In this setup, there are 5 cards available. There are always 2 more than the number of players each round. Here's the player board. On the outside are the characters available to you at the beginning of the game. The 2 main types of characters are actors and craftsmen. The action that each character provides is in the upper left-hand corner. The actors have 3 spaces where they can be costumed by the costume elements we saw earlier. If costumed by each dress rehearsal, they gain the bonus action down here in the bottom right-hand corner. The better the costume is, the better the bonus, and that's indicated down here at the bottom of the player board. On these cards, this is what I have to pay the actor. The ones I start with I don't have to pay, but anybody that I hire during the game, I'll have to make sure I have enough money at the end of the game to pay their wages. Otherwise, you're punished VPs. In the middle of the player board is the set. As the game progresses, I'll be adding set pieces to build the set. So there are rules to this, though. If I place a purple piece over here, I also have to place a purple piece here. It has to be symmetric, so what you place on the left side, you also have to place on the right side. If I then place a blue piece here, I've got to place another blue piece here. The only exception to that is the gold pieces. So the golds are wild cards, so I could play that there, and that would match with the blue that I'd played. These candles are victory point symbols, so if you cover those up, if you build your setup high enough, you get a point for each one. The last thing on the player board is the ambiance track. So you start here, you can move up or down. You can gain a point or you can lose a point. You can gain a spot on an act track or you can lose a spot on an act track. These will fluctuate during each round, and then at the end of the round, you're either rewarded or penalized based on where you're at. The way each round begins is by each player secretly bidding the amount of actions they wish to take. The player who bids the fewest will get to go first, and they will earn 1 VP. Going first might allow me to gain a really powerful character, but it's also going to limit the number of actions I can take. Recruiting characters is one of the more powerful actions. You can recruit only once per round, and it's the only action that doesn't cost one of the cylinders that I bid. The action on that card then becomes available. So, in the first turn, I may have taken Lady Macbeth. I place her card next to my player board, and I can then take this action to move up one of the act tracks. So that's the other action, activating a character. Activating a character does require me to use one of my action cylinders. So let's see, on my first or second turn, I guess, let me say I use Shakespeare. I can move up 2 on one of the act tracks or 1 on 2 different act tracks. With my other next action, I'm going to use Falstaff, who lets me move up 2 on the ambiance track. And then there's the Handyman, who lets me take up to 4 value in costume elements and set pieces. So I could take a 2 and a 2 here. I immediately have to play those, so maybe I place the 2 here on Shakespeare. He's now 1/3 of the way to his costume bonus, which you have until the end of round 4 to collect. And then I'm going to place this set piece here. And it has a bonus on it as well. It gains me 1 coin. The other actions I can take are the Queen and Lady Macbeth, but I'm out of action cylinders, so I can't do those. I'll have to wait until the next round. There are other cards in the deck that let me do all kinds of things. So I could take more, up to a value of 6 in set pieces, up to a value of 6 in costume elements. The jeweler lets me take the gold set and costume pieces. Juliet would let me move up the red track and take a costume piece of 2 for free. And Hamlet moves every other player down their ambiance track and gives me a space on the yellow track. So there are all kinds of things in the deck. Now, at the end of each round, all but one of my characters that I use this round is going to have to rest. So I'll have to put a rest token on 2 out of these 3 characters. If I know I really want to use Shakespeare the next round, maybe I rest Falstaff and the Handyman, and then Shakespeare becomes available immediately. So that's a really strategic element as well. Some characters you're going to have to do without for a round, and others you can double up on and use twice in a row. So we play through 6 rounds, scoring the act tracks and getting costume bonuses at the end of the 4th and 6th rounds, which are dress rehearsals. So if the board looks like this, red would get 5 gold, green and blue 3. Blue would get 2 points for being in first place on the yellow track, and red would get 1 for being in second. And green would gain 3 points, blue 2, and red 1. You would also score any end-of-game victory point cards that were granted by the queen throughout the game. And then, you can't forget that you must pay all of your actors. If you don't, you will lose victory points for each one you can't pay. So in this case, I would owe 17 money. If, for example, I only have 16, I'm going to have to ditch Puck, and then I can only pay for these 4, and I lose 2 victory points. In this case, red player created the most successful stage play, and they gained 27 points and won the game. So hopefully by now you have some idea how to play Shakespeare. So now let's go over some of my thoughts about the game. When I'm evaluating a game for the first time, or in this case the 5th or 6th time, I like to consider a couple things. First, how much strategy is there for the amount of game time? In this case, there's quite a bit of strategy for the 90-minute game time. There's quite a bit of meat here. There's a lot of decisions to be made, and a lot of them are very important. The second thing I like to consider, where is that strategy? Where are those interesting decision points throughout the game? In this case, it starts with the turn order. So you bid for turn order, but unlike many games that use that mechanism, you're not bidding coins, you're bidding action cylinders. With only 20 or 25 actions taken throughout the course of the game, and maybe 20 or 25 points gained throughout the course of the game, this is critical. It's a game of fine margins. So if you take first priority, you don't want to screw that up by taking something that nobody else wants. You just sacrificed action cylinders for that privilege, so you want to take something that's going to be hotly contested or sought after during the round. That's my second point. Prioritization is key. You definitely want to take something that other players want. So if there's 2, or if there's only 1 gold set element or costume element out there in a round, and there's 2 of you with jewelers, that would be a good thing to take on your first action. Only 1 of you can get that this round. I didn't mention it earlier, but those gold costume elements and set pieces are also worth 1 point each at the end of the game. So again, in a game where you're only getting 20 or 25 points, that's pretty critical. It's probably not wise to bid 4 or 5 action cylinders each round anyway. It would be nearly impossible, as all of your characters except 1 have to rest at the end of the round. So if you take 5 actions every round, you're going to run out of actions to take, or they're going to be very suboptimal for you. This creates a delicate balance of when to take a lot of actions, but also when to take only a few actions and hopefully get turn order first and take that extra victory point. I'm a Eurogamer at heart, so theme doesn't always mean a whole lot to me, but in this case, I'm really glad Yustari brought the theme forward because it works really well. The artwork is also beautiful, from the character cards to the board, everything. The box, gorgeous. So nice job, Yustari, for that. Recently, also, Shakespeare Backstage came out, and I'll be reviewing that before long when I get a chance to play it for the first time, so keep an eye out for that review as well. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, comment below or message me.